Hey guys, it's Warren here again with Copeland Small Engine Repair. Welcome back to my channel. I'm going to take a minute today to try to help out some people. If you're thinking about doing this part-time out of a shop on your property, your garage, a shed you might have, whatever you may have. If you're trying to do small engine repair as a side hustle, like I am, I'm going to try to give you some things to think about before you start advertising to the public, things you might want, maybe you haven't thought of some of these things. I've been doing this for 15 years here, I guess. One thing you need to worry about is the city you live in going to be okay with you working on this stuff at your house? A lot of I live in a really small town. Well, it used to be a really small town, but so many people are moving to Texas. This little small town's growing pretty fast. But the little town I live in, they've never said a word about me being out here. My house is 3 or 4 blocks from the downtown area. And my lot takes up a whole corner of a city block. My house is right on the corner. My shop is a 40-foot long shipping container back here on the back of my property. I do have like a 10 by 20 tent in front of my shop. But I've got my shop set. I set up my shop and everything back here. So the back of my property, my neighbors' fences are completely overgrown, real thick and high with brush and bushes and thick trees. And my neighbors are great. They've never, they love me. I've done work for them. And so when you drive around the block and look at my property, you can't see a whole bunch of crap back here. It looks real clean. I try to keep the rest of my yard nice and clean. So you want to try to make sure you do everything you can to keep city code enforcement off your back. Now, some cities, code enforcement's going to be a pain in your butt no matter what you do. But I'm lucky I live in a small town. And another thing I do is I do work for the police department, the fire department, the mayor. I've had the mayor zero turn here and put a new engine on the zero turn for the mayor. The city workers bring me their chop saws and their generators, and I hook those guys up. Because they leave me alone, I take care of those guys. Another thing I do, all my neighbors that are right around my shop, my house, they get anything they want. I take care of those people. I don't, they have to pay for parts. If I work on one of their machines, they pay for parts, but their labor's free for putting up with the traffic and the noise. So they know anytime they need anything, they come over to me. I'll take care of it. And in 15 years, they hardly ever asked me to do anything. But I always take care of those guys. So first off, make sure before you start doing anything that the city you live in, the city code enforcement officer isn't going to be your worst nightmare. And sometimes you won't know that till you start doing things. But that's one thing to worry about. And, how visible is what you're doing from the street when people drive around the block. Now, I do this, most of what I do is all day on Saturdays and Sundays. And on Saturdays and Sundays, the city code enforcement isn't driving around looking at crap. They're off. I do come out here when I get home from my full-time job. I get home, I come out here at night, but they're already done for the day. So I don't have to really worry about them seeing me doing stuff while I'm doing it. It's just, what does my property look like during the day when they're driving around? So I keep it real clean, and I've had, a ton of crap visible out in my property from the street before. No, they've never said a word. So that's just one thing to think about. Another thing you need to think about is if you're not a commercial shop, you're doing this part-time off your property, don't put signs up on your property. Some of you guys may be doing this and have a big sign out in front of your house, and code enforcement hadn't said anything to you about it. But that's one of the things to think about. Don't put big signs up out in front of your property. You can put a sign on your vehicle. I wouldn't put the address on there like, hey, my shop is at, my house. But you can put magnetic signs on your vehicle if you want. But don't put permanent mounted signs on your fence or your property or house. You want to be as low key as possible. You just want to be a good old boy tinkering with mowers in your garage. Don't try to look like a big commercial place. Another thing you need to think about is, do you have a place to work? Do you have a place to put, to work on a zero turn, to work on a ride mower? Do you have a place to put, if you end up, with 6 zero turns and 8 ride mowers and 15 push mowers and, 20 weed eaters and 8 chainsaws, you got a place to put all this out of the weather? You want to fill your garage up with this? Do you have a shop? Do you have something on your property you can put all this? So you need a place to work. Another thing you need to think about is think about all the people that are going to be dropping off equipment and picking up equipment. And a lot of people are going to show up to your house to drop something off, and they're not going to have ramps. I don't know how they get the stuff loaded, but people show up here all the time in pickup trucks with riding mowers in the back of them, or they'll bring a flatbed trailer with a zero turn on it, and they have no ramps. They have no way to get it off of there. So make sure you got a set of ramps. I've got two 8-foot 2x12s that you can buy. You can buy these aluminum ramp kits, and all it is just a tongue that mounts on the end of the board. You just drill 2 holes on the end of a 2x12 and mount these things on there, and it makes a really nice set of ramps. So make sure you got a way to unload and load zero turns. Another thing I would recommend is people bring me generators all the time. You know, a lot of stuff, ride mowers, push mowers, zero turns, everything has wheels, but a lot of generators that people bring me don't have wheels. So I recommend getting you some of those big utility wagons. Some people call them garden wagons. They're really nice to roll out to somebody's vehicle. You take a big generator off, set it on that thing, and roll it out to your shop, and I just leave it on the wagon. I've got like 6 of those things. I'll leave it on the wagon. I'll put a tarp over it with some magnets. I'll fix it on the wagon, and when they come pick it up, I roll it right back out to their vehicle and load it back in their truck. So just make sure you have a way to move some stuff around. And you need something, a ride mower or your own ride mower, your own zero turn. You need something to pull equipment around with. I can't tell you how many times I've come home and there'll be a zero turn just sitting in the street with 2 flats, no battery, no note on it. But people bring you stuff all the time that won't run. You know, they'll bring you a zero turn, and, you know, getting it off the trailer is not a big deal. You just put it in freewheel, roll it off the trailer. But if you've got a good distance to go from where you unload equipment to your shop or wherever you're going to park this thing till you get to work on it, you need a way to move it. And trying to push this stuff around, I mean, you just wear yourself out. Now, if you got I've got a couple of big, strong, healthy teenage boys that are glad to come out here, but, you know, sometimes they're not here. It's just easier to have something I can hop on, throw a strap on that thing. And so I've got a nice strap. I've got my personal riding lawnmower. It's just an old John Deere riding lawnmower. I've got it set up so that I can pull equipment around with it. So when somebody drops a zero turn out at my driveway that won't run, I can slap a strap on that thing and hook it to my lawnmower and drag it out here, you know, lickety split. You know, I do this every day. Another thing I did, I put a ball hitch on my riding lawnmower. And I've got all 3 of the different size of the trailer hitch balls that I can stick on there. Because a lot of people will bring you, say they bring you a big welder on a trailer. Well, they've got to leave the trailer at your house. So I've got my ride mower hooked up, so I can just drive out there and put that trailer on my ride mower, and I can pull it out here and back it up in a hole or move it wherever I want. Log splitters, a lot of people bring me log splitters that are pulled by a hitch on a truck. And it's nice to just drive my ride mower out there, put that log splitter on my lawnmower, and drive it out here and park it somewhere. So depending on how busy you're going to get, what you're going to work on, you need to think about having to unload this equipment, how you're going to move it around. People will bring you trailers all the time. People will bring me a zero turn sometimes on a little trailer, and they want to leave the whole trailer here, which is fine. So I'll just use my lawnmower, and I'll put it on that hitch ball on my mower and move it out here and put it wherever I want it. Another thing you might think about that I did after, you know, I had so many problems is I have air wherever they're dropping off and picking up equipment at your shop, out at the driveway, the parking lot, whatever you want to call it, the curb. I have air ran out there so that when somebody drops off a zero turn or a ride mower or something, if the tire's flat, I've got air out there. And I can take a bead blaster out there. I mean, people bring you stuff and the tire's not even on the rim. You know, it's come off the rim because they've been driving it. So I can jack it up and use a bead blaster, pop that tire back out on the rim. And it's just a lot easier to have because it's 130 feet from my shop to my driveway. And I've got air permanently ran out there. You know, it's not buried in the ground. It's just a air hose that goes from here along the bottom of the fence out to my driveway. So when I need air out there, I can hook that air hose up and I've got air out there. So if I need to air up a tire or pop a tire out on a rim or something, I can do that without having to drag, you know, 130 foot air hose out there, do that, and then drag it back in here. It's already set up out there. Another thing you need to think about if you're going to start working on this stuff is equipment to move the stuff around, to pick it up in the air, to jack it up, to, you know, you need to be safe. some of the best things I ever bought are those electric hoists from Harbor Freight. You can buy them from 800-pound capacity up to 2,000 or 3,000 pound capacity. They're really cheap. They work great. They got a nice simple little up-down hand control on it. They plug into 120. They're just awesome. And I've got 2 of those. I got one in my shop. I got one out back. And the one in my shop, what I'll do with it, I've got a lift table I also got from Harbor Freight. And these little lift tables are just a little cart you push around, and they got a little foot pump on it, and you can pump that thing up to countertop height to work on it. Well, when it's all the way down, it's still, I've got another 4x4 on top of mine with a piece of plywood on it, that'll fit a push mower. So even when it's all the way down, it's still, a foot off the ground. And a push mower is no problem. I can tilt it back and roll it up there, but I get a big heavy generator in here, a tiller, something I need to put on that lift table to jack up. I still need to pick that piece of equipment up about a foot off the ground, or 15 inches, or however tall this thing is. I still need to pick that equipment off the ground so I can slide that lift table under it. I'll put it on that lift table, then I'll pump the lift table up to, working height. So I've got one of those hoists in here, and I will hook a chain to a generator, say, and I will pick that generator up a foot off the ground, put my lift cart under it, put that generator on there, and then I can, take the chain off and I'll pump it up to the right height. Because, man, if you're going to be working on this stuff every day, you do not want to be crawling around on your hands and knees for generators and tillers and things like that. It's not so bad for riding mowers and zero turns, but for that smaller stuff, you really need to get that on a table. And for zero turns and riding lawnmowers, I recommend, I've got a hoist out back that I can pick those up. I mean, I can stand them up at a 45-degree angle if I need to. And I've got 2 mower jacks, the little jacks you pull the wheels of the mower onto, and you can jack it up at a 45-degree angle. I use those all the time to, switch out blades and belts and everything. But a lot of times these zero turns, when you're working on the back of a zero turn, say you're doing a transmission belt or a electric clutch or replacing a transmission, something like that, you need to get that thing up in the air, and you do not want one of those things to fall on you. They'll kill you. So I went and bought 4 of these 6-ton jack stands from Harbor Freight. These things are 6 ton. They're freaking huge. They're extremely heavy duty. And for a lawnmower, yeah, they are way overkill for a lawnmower. They've got little 3-ton jack stands at Harbor Freight, but they're real short. And I didn't like those. I got a pair of those, and they're so short they're useless. I can't use them for anything. But I went and got 4 of their, I believe they're Daytona 6-ton jack stands, and those things are huge. And even when they're collapsed all the way, they're still, they're 15 inches tall. But I will pick up a zero turn, the back of a zero turn up with my electric hoist as high as I want it, and I'll put those jack stands under the back of that zero turn and let it down on those jack stands, but I will still leave the hoist hooked to it, so it's got 3 points of support. So I know absolutely for sure that thing is not going to fall on me. And it's just nice to have huge jack stands to put these things on and make sure they're not going to fall on you. And man, trying to jack those things up. Now I do have a big Pittsburgh floor jack in case I need that. And I also have a set of the ramps, the automotive car ramps. And a lot of times those are nice. If the thing will still move itself, you can back a zero turn up on those and get the back end up off the ground. But if you're working on a transmission drive belt, the thing won't move. So you can't back up on some ramps. That's when the hoist comes in handy. You can just push it over on that hoist, hook a chain to it, and pick that damn thing up as high as you want it, and put those big, huge jack stands under it. And you got peace of mind when you get under there. It's not going to kill you. I got a friend of mine that mows commercially, and he does as much of his own mechanic work as he can. And he came by a few months ago, and his whole face looked bruised. His eyes were black. And he showed me his chest. His whole chest was black and blue. And I said, what happened? And a zero turn had fallen on him. He had it up on a regular car jack, and I don't know what he was doing, but it fell off of that jack and it landed on him. And when it landed on him, his arms were down there with him. His arms were underneath there with him, so he couldn't reach out or do anything. And since it was laying on his chest, he couldn't scream. And he was laying there, and just happened that day, his brother happened to be there working on his mower. He was outside, and thank God his brother just happened to need to come into the shop to get a wrench, and his brother found him as he was passing out. And he couldn't scream. He said he was unable to scream because he couldn't get enough air in his lungs to make any noise. And his brother found him, and his brother got that mower off of him, and they took him to the emergency room, and he's fine now. But the doctors told him if his brother hadn't walked into the room, if his brother would have been another 5 or 6 minutes, he'd be dead, because it crushed him. I mean, it didn't break any bones, but he said he's never been that scared in his life. So he came over here, and he was asking me, hey, how do you get these things off the ground? What can I do to be safe? So I told him about the hoist and the jack stands and all that, because some people think, I'm just taking the blades off. I'll just be under there. I won't be under that mower for 2 minutes. It shouldn't be a problem. Don't trust your life under one of these damn machines for a second. There ain't a piece of junk that comes into my shop that's worth me dying over. And I don't care how long it takes or how big a hurry I am. I don't get under nothing until I know, man, if there's an earthquake, that thing ain't going to fall on me. I'm not going to leave my wife and kids without a father because I'm trying to work on somebody's piece of junk lawnmower. But just be careful and make sure you got the equipment you need to do this crap safely. Another thing you need to do, I know even if you're doing this stuff in your backyard, for your neighbors and your buddies and you're just getting started, get a receipt book and fill out a receipt for everything you do. And a lot of people are like, well, my customers don't want a receipt. I don't care if your customers want a receipt. Fill one out for yourself. Fill one out so you have a record of what you did to what for who and the day you did it. Because if you're just doing, fixing a couple things a month, you probably don't have to worry about it. But if you start getting busy, like I started doing this 15 years ago, and man, I'm so busy now, it's insane. The amount of work I do and the amount of work I get for doing this as a side hustle is crazy. I don't know why I'm still doing it. I need my head examined, but if it weren't for the money coming from this shop, me and my family would be screwed. But get your receipt book. These are the ones I use. It's just an invoice book. I get these at Office Max and Office Depot. There's the part number. It's a D8140. And it's just an invoice book. That's all it is. It's 2 parts. So there's a yellow copy you can rip out and give to your customer. But I like these because it's just a huge blank page. And it's got a place up here. I'll put their name and phone number. I'll put the piece of equipment and model number over here. And then I'll write the word parts. I'll list the parts. Then I'll write labor and I'll list the labor. I got all the prices over here. I added up at the bottom. And I like this because it's got plenty of room for me to write down all the crap, all the parts I've got and all the things I'm doing for labor. It's just got a lot of room on it to put everything I need to put on it. And put the date on it. And when I get done with one of these, I'll write, September of 23 to October of 24 or whatever the date range is, and I'll throw it in a pile. It is a lot better if you have a computer, but computers are nice because if somebody comes back with something, you don't have to go dig through these receipt books. You can just pull it up on your computer. But over the last 10 years, I've probably had to dig back through my receipt books 4 or 5 times, maybe. And it's just not to have a copy of what you did for them, because people will come back and say, hey, you just worked on this thing a month ago, and I'm already having problems with it. Well, if you go back and look at your receipts, look at your records, you'll find out it wasn't a month ago, it was 4 months ago. And man, if you come in here and tell me I did something for you a month ago, I work on so much crap and I'm so scatterbrained and busy, I'm going to be like, okay, I can't remember nothing. So I got to have record of what I'm doing, because I can't remember when I did something for you. You could bring me something I did a year ago and tell me I worked on it 3 months ago, and I'm going to go, I guess I did, but that's why I have receipt books. And people like it when you hand them a receipt. It's more professional, and they can look at what you did, and especially when they bring you something, they're not expecting it to be that much, and their bill ends up being, $250, $300 or whatever it is. And they're like, oh my God, well, what'd you do? It's nice to have a receipt to hand them and say, here's what I did. Here's the parts, what the parts cost, what the labor cost. Here's everything I did. And they're a lot more, they're a lot more relaxed about it when they can see what you did. And I can't remember. You know, if I work on a zero turn and I do a whole bunch of stuff to it, put a bunch of parts on it, and they don't pick it up for 30 days, and then when they finally pick it up, they go, well, what'd you do to it? I don't know. I've done 1,000 different things, you know, in the last month. I can't remember what I did to your machine, but I have a receipt to look at and say, well, I did this, this, and this. I replaced these parts. This is what they cost. Another thing you need to do is get some tags. Drop the thing. And I get these little tags. You can get 1,000 of these on Amazon for $25, $30. A lot of y'all probably have a lot better place to buy these online. And you don't have to get these. They can be any size or shape or color, but you need a tag so you can tag people's, you know, with people's names. And when somebody drops off a piece of equipment, what they'll do, once we get it unloaded, I'll say, okay, what do you want me to do to this thing? And they'll rattle off, you know, do a full service, sharpen the blades, the transmission belts, you know, slipping, something's doing this or that. I got a leak in the front right tire. Well, as soon as they tell me that, as soon as they drive off, I will pull my phone out of my pocket, put it on video, point it at their machine and hit record, and I will talk, you know, while I'm videotaping their machine and say, Mr. Smith just dropped off this Cub Cadet zero turn. He wants this, this, and this done to it. Check this and this and make sure this is okay. And I'm done. And I have that video in my phone, so a week later, when I finally get to his machine, I can pull it up, scroll through my videos, and I can see that picture of his zero turn, hit play, and there's my recording of me saying, hey, he dropped this off, this is what, and that way I don't have to go out there with a clipboard and have to write down everything once. I've got it on video. If somebody brings me something that has a whole bunch of crap and they're just rattling off a ton of crap, I will pull out my phone and I'll tell them, hang on a minute. I'll pull out my phone, I'll point at their machine, I'll hit record, and I'll tell them, okay, start over, tell me everything you want me to do to this machine. So I've got their voice on the video of their machine telling me everything they want me to do to their machine. And it's just a nice quick reference that you have in your phone of, hey, what this customer wanted. And, you know, they'll drop off a push mower, and as soon as they drive away, I just pull my phone out, hit record, point it at their mower. And I just hold the camera perfectly still while I'm pointing it at their mower. So when I scroll through my videos and my photos, I see that machine, you know, in that gallery, and I can click on it. But that's one way you can keep up with everything. But get you a receipt book of some kind that has at least 2 parts so you can tear one out and give it to the customer. Get you some tags, just something you can, you know, put on the mower with their name. And another thing I do, I put the customer's name in my phone, like John Smith, and I leave it in there forever. I've got, I don't know how many hundreds of customers' names in my cell phone. When you scroll through the names in my cell phone, it scrolls on forever. And people will call me 2 years later, and their number and their name shows up on my screen because it's still on my phone. And that's just another thing I like to do. So when they, you know, they call me a year later, when, you know, say John Smith, you know, calls me a year later, when I answer, I'll be, hey John, how you doing? What's going on? And they're like, oh my God, he still got my name in his phone. But that's just a few of the things you have to think about when you start doing this as a side hustle. Don't be a nuisance in your neighborhood. You know, I try not to crank anything before 9 o'clock in the morning or after 9 o'clock at night. Now, sometimes I need to just to move it, but I don't run it that long. If I'm doing a chainsaw or something small, I'll get inside my shop and I'll close the doors. You know, I won't run it long. Then I got to open the doors when I'm done because I don't, you know, want to kill myself with gas fumes. But be wary of your neighbors and what they're having to listen to. Don't be a dick about it. I don't run a bunch of stuff out here at night, you know, outside, but I try not to crank anything before 9 in the morning or after 9 o'clock at night. And my neighbors, you know, I take care of them. I hook them up if they need something. But that's about all I got. I've got just make sure you got a place to work. This 40-foot long, I've got a 40-foot long high cube shipping container, and it makes a great shop. I mean, I love this container. The one thing I like about it is when I close these doors, it's a vault. I have no windows. There's no soft ceiling. The big double doors at the end of my container, they are held shut with a 10,000-pound capacity electric hoist from the inside. This big industrial walk-through door behind me is a metal industrial shop door, and it is held shut from the inside with an electric hoist. So you can't get in my shop. If you don't know how to get in my shop, you're not going to get in here. I mean, you could cut a hole in a wall with a grinder and a cutoff wheel if you wanted to. But it would be a pretty good job to get inside my shop if you don't know how to get in here. Cameras, think about security cameras. You don't want to come home one day and find somebody's, $6,000 zero turn you had is gone. I mean, that's not good. And one thing about security cameras will not prevent people from stealing stuff off your property. They'll give you a nice video of them stealing stuff off your property, but it won't prevent them. A lot of people it will. A lot of people drive by and see security cameras. They'll be like, that's too much hassle. I don't want to deal with that. It is a deterrent to some people. But some people don't care. I mean, they'll just walk right up in front of your camera, no mask on or nothing, and break into your shop and steal whatever they want. Because most people that do that, they don't steal stuff, in their own city. There's people whose whole career is stealing lawn equipment and breaking into people's shops and ripping them off. And I think most of the people that do that, they'll go to a state away. They'll go get a hotel room, rob a bunch of people in one area, and then go back home to another state. Or they'll drive, to another county or a couple of counties away, and they'll rip off a few people and go home. Most of the people that break into shops or steal lawn equipment and stuff like that, they don't live down the street. They don't live on the other side of town. They live in another city. And don't get fake video cameras. The people that do this for a living, they can spot a fake video camera so far away it ain't even funny. But you might think about getting some security cameras. But that's all I got for you today. I've got to get some work done. I just thought I'd make this video because I'm getting questions all the time on YouTube videos about, all these little things. I thought I'd try to make a video of, as much of this crap in one video as I could. And it's slow today. It's raining. It's December, so this time of year it's slowed down, thank God. Usually all year, spring and summer, I'm so busy. It's crazy how busy I am. There's not many shops in my area that do small engine repair. And the ones that are in this area, their prices are insane. They're just, they act like they're working on a Mercedes-Benz. It's crazy. But anyway, I'm going to get some work done. I just got a couple of generators and a backpack blower, and somebody brought me a go-kart I got to work on. But if you got any questions, comment below, and I'll see you next time.